And I know Scott's been trying to make moves, and he's been trying to test the market for all 4 of his top contracts. We've talked, like, maybe the most consistent thing that we've talked about on this show, Kayla, are both of our confusion about the just complete lack of market for DeMar DeRozan. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I actually want to go back to something you said at the very beginning of the show when we were talking about last night's Kings-Knicks game, because I know what you meant, but it's different. Like, DeMar, in my opinion, and I don't think this is a hot take, DeMar has been the best player on the Kings this season.
Yeah.
But last night's game was very different to how he's normally been.
Okay.
Because last night was, I am the offense, get me the ball, get out of the way.
Sure.
He shot, I think, 26 times.
Yep, high shot volume.
That's not who DeMar has been. And to me, if that's who DeMar was on a nightly basis, even with him scoring 34 points, I would not be interested in that as a contender.
Same.
But what DeMar has been this year is an efficient scorer without the high volume of shots. His shooting volume is down. The scoring is down because of it, but his shooting percentages are solid.
Right.
Which to me is
on this team.
Right. Which to me is more enticing to a contender or to a playoff team that might want to bring him in. And we've talked about different teams that potentially could be interested, but our friend Jill Adge, which I don't have you met Jill?
Well, she's been on the chat or on social media. I've seen her on there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jill is a wonderful Kings fan, great follow on social media, diehard Kings fan. She and I were chatting during the Knicks game last night, and she brought up the Portland Trailblazers would make a ton of sense for DeMar DeRozan. And I had never considered it.
Yeah.
Because the Trailblazers, one, are 9th in the West. They're, I don't have the standings in front of me. They're like 3.5 games back, let's say, of the Warriors, I think, in 8th. And the difference between 9 and 8 is massive.
It's
because
huge.
7 and 8 is you only have to win 1 game, and you have 2 tries to get into the playoffs. If you're 9 or 10, as the Kings know very well, you have to win both games just to get an 8th seed. Right, so the difference between 9 and 8 is monstrous.
Yeah.
So the Blazers are obviously trying to get up there. Once they get to the playoffs, they want to actually do something in the playoffs and not just flame out in 4 straight blowouts. And they need more scoring on that team. Denny Advia has been really, really good. Maybe in the mix for an all-star nod, we'll see. Shaedon Sharpe is a really promising young player, although he can be streaky, but when he's on, he's great as an offensive option. Drew Holiday on the older side, more of a defensive playmaker than he is a scorer at this point in his career. Jeremy Grant's not that guy, even though they, for some reason, paid him like he's that guy. They need another scoring option in Portland.
Yeah.
And here you have a not number 1 guy, maybe at best number 2 guy, which Portland might need him to be 2 some nights, or if Shaedon Sharpe's cooking, they can make him number 3 on other nights.
There's versatility there.
Right.
Yeah.
DeMar makes a ton of sense for them. And again, when we're talking about DeMar DeRozan trade conversations, Kayla, this is extremely important. The Kings aren't looking for a DeMar DeRozan level return. That's not what we're talking about here. It's moving on from DeMar, getting off of his contract, not having to pay him the $10 million minimum that he's owed next year, and getting back a role player, hopefully, that makes sense, that isn't on a long-term deal, so you don't have to have him on the books for a while, and or some sort of draft compensation. That's what the Kings are asking for here.
And so before you reveal what maybe they would get in return, let me comment on the trade, the possible trade partner. I love it. I think it's very interesting. First and foremost, I don't know DeMar in terms of personally what he's looking for at this point of his career, but you would stay on the West Coast. And I think for some players that's important when they have family. I like the fact of the fit of Portland too. Because when Portland came here, I don't know when it was, the homestand or whatever, when they played here.
Yeah, just recently.
We had a conversation about how Portland may not have the individual talent that Sacramento Kings have, but they have, like, they all play together. Like, they play for, like, the same, they just play well together. Mm-hmm. And I feel like DeMar DeRozan, he can really fit in anywhere in that aspect of it because they need extra scoring, though, especially if they want to make that push with the playoffs. Like, DeMar fits that, too.
He does.
Like, DeMar could come right in and be one of those savvy vets that isn't going to pout probably if he's not getting, like you said, the starting time all the time.
Yes.
But they might need him at some point, too.
Right, and this is like, you're not taking on a contract that you have it better work or else.
Yeah.
It is if you're Portland, let's try this. Let's add this veteran to what we're doing. We know we're not contending this year, but we want to get in and we want to get that experience for some of our guys that hopefully will be part of contending a contending team one day. DeMar, you can help us do that. If it doesn't work out, we pay you your $10 million, which is nothing, and you go on your merry way and decide where you want to go.
That's not a lot.
But if it does work out, well, then we have you under contract for one more year, and maybe we can do something special in Portland. So I think it makes sense. But in terms of okay, so what does that trade look like,
What's
Maddie?
the return?
What does a Portland Trailblazers trade realistically look like? So I have trade A and trade B. Trade A is better. Trade B is if they're not interested in trade A.
And Kyle, get in on this too.
Trade A. Robert Williams III and Matisse Thybulle, both
Okay.
of them expiring deals. These are
Okay.
two guys that are expiring. You take flyers on them for the remainder of this season. An athletic center, but he's an undersized center.
Yep.
He probably doesn't play very much because you have already your center rotation.
centers.
And Matisse Thybulle, defensive guard, kind of hybrid.
Been connected to the Kings for a million years.
Been connected to the Kings for a long time. Again, you test them out for the rest of the season.
Sure.
If you like any of these guys, you can negotiate a new contract with them this summer when they become free agents. But both of them are expiring. You're off the books. And you can in trade A, you're also asking for the 2028 Orlando first round pick because the Trailblazers own a handful of picks in that 2028 draft and multiple firsts. Now, I'm put protections on this if you want to. If you want to make it, I put top 10 protected. You want to make it lottery protected, so it's outside the top 15. Fine.
Sure.
I'm fine with that. Lottery protected if you want. In return for DeMar DeRozan and Keon Ellis.
Okay.
And again, I've been consistent with this is where
Sweetener.
if I'm Scott Perry, this is the most value for Keon Ellis. This is the best way to use Keon is to attach him to a contract to get that team to take that contract or so that you can facilitate that trade, move on from that contract. But because you're adding a talent like Keon Ellis, in addition to DeMar DeRozan, who in theory we should think the Portland Trailblazers might be interested in, now you can ask for a little bit more. But if they go, no, we're not including a first-round pick, it's not happening, no. Okay, fine. Then trade B is very similar. It's Williams and Thybulle and 2 2027 seconds because they have 4.
Okay.
The Blazers have 4
So
second rounders.
They can part with at least 2.
Give 2 of them,
Yeah.
and then you just take DeRozan.
Look,
They literally don't have the roster spots for all those
For
second
all
round
of them.
picks.
Right. So
Yeah.
give us 2 seconds and those 2 expiring contracts, and you take DeMar DeRozan off our hands. That's it.
look, we have to look at the bigger picture of what they're trying to do in the Kings organization right now. And while you might not exactly love the return, like you said, expiring contract and a couple of these guys, maybe they're second round picks instead of a protected first, whatever. The whole point of this is that until there is movement on the Kings side of things, there is going to be, that is months that you're putting yourself behind.
Yep.
The faster that this happens, the faster the rebuild can be. And we're not saying the rebuild's going to be in 1 year. But I would rather make moves now so then the summer you can figure out your next plan of attack.
Right.
And that you can start to really, work in some of these younger guys because you're not going to have so many of these guys log jamming things up. I know that it's probably tough to be like, well, we like DeMar, but we're going to kind of trade him away for not a lot. And plus Keon Ellis is going with him. I really don't care at this point. I want the ball to get rolling.
And if you can turn the salary commitment that you don't want to pay into a couple of second rounders, it's not this again, it's not a sexy trade. It's not something that super excites you. But second rounders are pieces that you can either move in future trades eventually, or they give you 2 more shots at finding a diamond in the rough or adding the depth that you might need, finding another Dylan Cardwell or Keon Ellis. Granted, both of those guys were undrafted free agents, but you get my point. Finding those guys that could become something that is a fringe piece or a important rotational piece of an eventual contender, right? Like you're in an asset gathering mode.
Yep.
And if you don't trade DeMar DeRozan, which it sounds like they're not going to be able to, the interesting question then becomes, and this is going to be a conversation that we really dive into after the trade deadline, is what do you do with DeMar DeRozan? Because my understanding is that the Kings will actually have until January of next season. So almost halfway through next season before they have to cut DeRozan.
Okay.
So they could go into January
Still playing with him.
and cut him in January and only owe him the $10 million. So they could, in theory, go through an entire summer of shopping him. Maybe it's not there. Now you go through an early part of next season still shopping him, and maybe a deal opens up. If it doesn't, then you cut him, you pay him your $10 million. So I don't think there's any scenario where the Kings cut DeRozan this summer. If they don't trade him now, they're going to try to aggressively shop him this summer.
Okay.
DeMar DeRozan being on the Kings to start next season is not that big of a deal. It is a big deal, though, if you're going into next season still with all these 4 contracts that nobody seems to want.
Huge deal. And look, maybe Domantas Sabonis, maybe he can be, something can happen in the summer with that. And then it wouldn't make maybe the DeMar staying here till January so bad. Mm-hmm. But the point is like one of these things have got to be moved going into next season, because that's just a nightmare. You're having the same sort of situation that we're dealing with now. Well, obviously, maybe a good pick that we can look forward to. But
I hope so.
You also want cap space, too, because then you can be one of these teams that facilitates taking a bad contract from another team to get draft picks, a la the Brooklyn Nets with Michael Porter Jr., someone like that. But right now the Kings can't do that because they, for the most part, have to match salaries with somebody else. So if you can move DeRozan, again, like the first scenario Matt threw out there, if you move DeRozan and Keon and get Williams and Thibault and they both expire, now you have $25 million you didn't previously have that you can absorb if, say, Cleveland wants to move off of one of their players or something like that.
Yeah, it just gives you flexibility, and flexibility is important. Now, you have to use it, but flexibility is important. Oh,